Mark loved the quiet hum of the library. It was a soft, sleepy sound that always made him feel at home. He was a quiet man himself, happy to be surrounded by tall shelves of books and the gentle rustle of turning pages. His job was simple, helping people find stories, stacking books just so, and making sure everyone had a nice, peaceful place to read. Every morning, the sun would peek through the tall windows, making golden squares on the old wooden floor. Mark would unlock the heavy front door, and the smell of old paper and dust motes dancing in the light would greet him. He liked that smell. It was like a warm hug from a very old friend. He wasn't one for loud noises or big crowds. The library was his quiet kingdom, and he was its watchful, gentle king. He'd often sit behind the big oak desk, the one with the little lamp, and help kids find adventure books or grown-ups find cooking guides. He knew where every book lived, almost like they were his own little family. Sometimes, a child would ask him to read a story, and he would. His voice was soft, but when he read, it filled the air with magic. He liked making children happy, seeing their eyes light up with wonder. But even in his quiet kingdom, his mind often wandered to someone else. Her name was Lily. She wasn't a book, but she filled his thoughts like the best story he'd ever read. Lily used to come to the library all the time when she was little. Her bright, curious eyes would sparkle as she picked out picture books. Mark remembered her small hand reaching for a book about dragons, her tiny fingers tracing the pictures. He'd always smile at her, and she'd smile back, a gap-toothed grin that melted his quiet heart. As she grew, she moved from picture books to fairy tales, then to adventure stories, and later, to books about brave girls who changed the world. Mark watched her grow up through the books she chose. He'd always have a special one ready for her, knowing just what kind of story she'd like next. She was like a bright flower blooming right there in the library, growing taller and prettier with each passing season. He saw her as a constant, a happy little star in his quiet world. He remembered when she started coming in less often. First, it was because of school. Then, it was friends and games outside. But every now and then, she'd still pop in, usually to find a book for a school project. Each time she came, she looked a little different, a little older. Her hair, once messy pigtails, was now long and shiny. Her voice, once a high squeak, had become softer, like a gentle song. She wasn't a little girl anymore, but he still saw her that way in his mind. Mark always saw her as a little girl even as she grew into a young lady. He'd always felt a special, protective warmth for her, like an older brother or a kind uncle. He worried about her, wondering if she was happy, if she was doing well in school, if she was making good choices. He never told her these thoughts, of course. He was just the quiet librarian, and she was just a girl who loved books. He kept his thoughts to himself, like he did with most things. He remembered a few months ago, she came in to return a book about art history. She was wearing a bright yellow dress, and she looked so grown up that day. He felt a strange pang in his chest, a feeling he couldn't quite name. It was a mix of pride, seeing her blossom, and a little sadness, knowing that his little Lily was fading away. He just knew she was changing, becoming someone new, someone he didn't quite recognize anymore, even though her eyes still held that same spark he remembered from when she was a little girl. He'd once heard her talking to a friend outside the library, saying she couldn't wait to turn 18. She sounded so excited, so ready to be a grown-up. Mark had just shaken his head gently, a small smile playing on his lips. 18. It felt like yesterday she was 7, asking him to read about a talking bear. He wondered what kind of adventures she was looking for now. He still thought of her as young, still thought of her as the little girl who loved dragons. He guessed some things just stick in your mind, like the smell of old books or the quiet hum of a peaceful library. He never thought she would see him as anything more than the quiet man who handed her books. He sighed softly, stacking a pile of newly returned novels. The library was empty now, closing time approaching. He had just finished tidying up the children's section, making sure all the